Should say 6 o'clock, not 6:30.
6:30, 7:30.
Okay.
That's before.
I'd like to start this meeting with the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start with 4 sets of minutes. Actually, the first one we're going to have to hold off on until Julie gets here, because Pat and I were not at the meeting.
Oh.
We'll go to second set of July 23rd.
Move to accept the minutes as written for July 23rd.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any changes that need to be made that anybody noticed? I didn't see any. Seeing and hearing none. Pat?
Yes.
Virginia?
Yes.
And yes. August 9th. This was fire chief interviews.
Move to accept the minutes of August 9th.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the August 9th minutes. Any omissions, changes, errors that anybody noticed? Hearing none. Virginia?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
And yes. And August 16th. This was the other minutes for the interviews.
Move to accept the minutes as written.
Second.
Okay. Any changes, errors, omissions? No? Pat?
Yes.
Virginia?
Yes.
And yes. Okay. That makes Mr. Pink Tank up. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Great, so I've been speaking with Jeff about the potential Phase 6 application for Back Bay, the FY13 CDBG round. The due date for this is currently set for, I believe, December 14th. There was a meeting last week that the state indicated they were going to push it off until at least mid-January, possibly back to the old due date of the Friday before vacation week in February, which would help a lot of people. So the town has a little bit more time to go back over all of this, and we have a little bit more information on what we can apply for, how much money is available. And so what I've done is put together an outline of what a potential application would cost the town, what different activities would cost, in terms of grant funding, the budget, and everything like that. Just so now we actually have some real numbers to deal with to give you a decision, help you make a decision whether or not to go for it.
No. When you came in recently to see Jeff, just say that our score had dropped.
Right. So this year, the state, a big part of the application process is the community-wide needs score. It takes into account numerous factors to judge a community's need. There's definitely some flaws in the system, but it is something that they just take DOR numbers and plug them in.
Yeah.
This year, I'd say at least 50% of towns saw their scores drop. Templeton's dropped 2 points. A lot of them dropped 1. Only a handful actually went up. What I've done is I took to get an idea about how competitive you would be with this 2-point drop, I went back to last year's award list, plugged in the community-wide need scores for that, and then I also took out what towns above that scored higher than Templeton would be eligible for. For example, last year Provincetown was awarded $1 million. This year, they're only eligible for 200,000, so I just reduced that. And when I ran through all the numbers and everything, boiled it all down, Templeton was right on the cusp of getting funded still. So what we originally thought was no chance at all, after going back through it, there's definitely a fighting chance.
Mike, if I could put a frame around this, Mike and I had a discussion. You recall when Mike came in August, we said this isn't even worth our effort. Now that you've heard a little bit about how the funding formula has changed a bit, and given what people above us in rank are eligible for, why we're right on the margin now, 50-50 call whether we get funded or not. I think the important thing to understand strategically is, Mike and I had this discussion, it's kind of like playing roulette or playing poker. You have to try and think about what all those other people ahead of you in line are going to do, and how many of them are going to see the same thing that we see and just say, you know what, we're going to pass this year. We're going to file next year. And we've also been told through Senator Brewer's office that CDBG grants are going to be declining in favor of Chapter 90, Chapter 70 money. So we would expect that next year's pool of dollars will be smaller than this year. And once those two thoughts came into my mind and Mike's, we realized, why not go for it this year, given that we're right there on the cusp, thinking that if one town ahead of us drops off, our chances went way up. And we're also going to be competing for a larger pool with fewer towns than could be the case next year, a smaller pool with more towns. So that's why we asked Mike to come in and do this brief, because really we're right on the tipping point. And I don't gamble, but certainly this sounds like a gamble worth taking, I think.
Yeah, in terms of touching on what towns are eligible for, one of the new rules that DHCD instituted this year was a 2-year cap of $1.35 million for any single community. So this is the first year where that is actually coming into play. Templeton is only eligible this year for 538,272. But looking at these other towns, some are eligible for 200, some are eligible for more, some aren't even eligible at all. Next year they'll all be back in the pool. They're going to reset to 0, so the competition will go back up again. So that's definitely give us some hope for a fighting chance.
Okay. Virginia?
When we were talking, you mentioned that we probably wouldn't find anyone to partner with, and that would be a problem for us.
Again, that was when I went through the numbers, I assumed that we wouldn't have a partner. Given the reduced funding amount, looking at all the towns around here, there didn't seem to be a logical partner for the town. And so, while we would lose 1 point on the application, which last year proved to be a critical point. Looking at the numbers, we're right in that same region where we have been for the last 5 years or so. Right on the cusp. There's towns that just have a really high need score. There's nothing we can do about it. So now, what we've looked at is saying, okay, does the town stand a chance without going in with a partner, based on the new need score dropping, things like that.
Jeff had mentioned this to me last week, and he said that we probably will just go in for Memorial Street. We won't go in for anything else.
Mm-hmm. So what I did was put together an application budget based on Memorial with a small second activity. In order to have any chance at an application, you do have to do 2 activities. That's a 5 or 10 point bonus right there.
Up on where the senior housing is.
Yeah. So what we could do is instead of doing more housing rehab in Baldwinville, we could do a small social services program. So it could be geared towards seniors if we wanted to do that. It could be, I know in the past we've talked about first-time homebuyer assistance. That could be something that the town could talk about. And that would, be somewhere the $20,000 to $40,000 range versus having to set aside about 100 plus for housing rehab. So that would then be able to put more grant money into Memorial, less Chapter 90 money into Memorial, still get all the points, provide a great benefit to the residents of Memorial, but then also an entire other community in town, whether it's new home buyers or the seniors, something like that. So I know in the past that we've talked about how, why is all the money going into Baltimore housing? This would be another way to kind of spread it out a little bit.
What else? There was one other thing. Oh, the design work for Memorial, were you going to bulk that in with the Fisher Street design as well?
What we could do is, well, Fisher's already been designed, but if we put it out to bid, well, just requesting qualifications from engineers at the same time that we do the project administration, we'll usually get a better price, putting those together. They're already on site. And so that's what, in here I have an estimate of $18,000 for design, and that's based on having it be the same engineering firm. And for engineering procurement, we wouldn't have to go with its qualifications. We wouldn't have to go with low bid or anything like that.
What?
Mike, when you talk about Memorial Street, will it go all the way to the dead end?
This budget would only go to Summer Street. We could have the engineering price out going all the way to the end to capture the last, was it 4 houses, I think? When they originally came up with this estimate, it was, we were looking at a smaller budget because we were thinking that we'd have to give another town money. But we could definitely include that in figuring it out. My guess is we'd only go to the Summer Street extension, though.
Mr. Chair, because if the town wants to go forward with this, I strongly recommend that we go all the way to the dead end and get Memorial Street extension. That's the worst part of Memorial Street. So, I mean, it's deplorable. You can't even plow it anymore. It's all busted up. It's all rutted up.
I mean, we could do something if, come up with different scenarios and alternates in the bidding, say, the first section is the base bid, and then, any drainage beyond that, and then we could definitely do paving beyond it.
Yeah. Because as you know, we had a water break, or the water department had a water break beyond Summer Street, just below it. So, if we're going to do that, perhaps that's the best time to get that done.
Right.
There really isn't a whole lot of design in there other than the water system in, because it all pitches one way. So, there could be, the drainage could be excluded from that portion if it was a money factor. Just more or less a paving factor.
It would be silly to not.
Yeah, because
it'd be very cheap money and very foolish not to do it, because we'll never get our vendor in there to do that short section.
right. And this would completely finish Back Bay.
All of that.
So it would make more sense to do it over. It's not that much more.
And when I was going through the budget today too, like I said, this was just for the first section. I ended up beefing up the contingency. Usually we only budget for 10%. I bumped it up to 20%. So once we get it designed and everything, there's a good chance that we'll have money in the budget for it. And that's also, budgeting, I think in here I have $40,000 for the social services activity, which is the very, very high end of what it would be. It's most likely going to be closer to $15,000, $20,000.
So, if I'm reading this right, the Chapter 90 money we would need for that is $87,750?
Correct. So that would be design of $18,000, and then the paving work. So the design would be due this fall. So we'd have to obviously have that done before the application, and then the paving would be either next fall or the following summer, depending on when the awards.
So that's FY14.
Right.
And this falls out of this year's allotment already.
And then this year, I've been talking about the final paving costs of phase 3. And we had budgeted originally, was it up to 160?
160.
And I think it's going to end up being closer to 50, right? Something like that. So there's a lot of money that's staying in chapter 90 instead of going into back pay. We really lucked out with a low bid from a really great contractor.
It looks nice down there. I was just down there the other day.
Yeah, from our engineer told us it's the best contractor they've ever worked with. So
By
to have that
far.
come out of a low, to have that come out of a low bid was
Great.
very fortunate.
So are you looking for a vote tonight to go forward with this?
I would like that. If you feel that it's something that we can go ahead with. Basically, what it boils down to in terms of cost is the grant writing is $6,500. Within the grant, each year we get reimbursed $3,000 for a successful application. So the FY12 grant, I'm going to be sending $3,000 back to the town in the next month or two. There's, as part of a grant writing contract, there's another $2,500 for a portion for the environmental review. That's paid out of an awarded grant. It's written into the grant writing contract because the work is done, but it doesn't get paid unless the grant is funded. So what you're looking at is $3,500 for grant writing and another $18,000 for design. In years past, the water department has paid that $3,500, but I have every indication this year that they don't have the money to do that.
I would love to be able to make a motion for you, but I have to abstain from this because I have property on Memorial Street. We may not be able to do a vote.
I think we need a majority of what's here, so.
Yeah, to vote it, you have a majority of what's here.
Of what's here.
You have 2 votes. It
Yeah.
would be illegal.
Oh, okay.
And, well, you could make the motion if you don't vote. You have the conflict when you vote, not when you make the motion.
Unless you want Pat to make the motion, you can second it.
I'll make a motion.
So to rephrase, this will cost the town $6,500 out of pocket immediately, with $3,000 to come back from COG as we close out the grant. It will also cost us $18,000 in engineering design money out of Chapter 90 in this FY13 fiscal year.
Which they just said that we're getting back from the last phase 4, was it?
Phase 3.
It's great.
And the engineering design, even if we don't get this grant and proceed with this project through Mike and COG, the engineering design for Memorial does not go stale. It's got an 8 or 10 year shelf life. So at any time the town could, with Chapter 90 money or any other resource, even if this grant request fails, go forward with Memorial Drive.
Okay.
So the actual design is not at risk. The only real risk to the town is about $3,500 to roll the dice.
Jeff, does that money come back to the project or to the general funds?
Which money
The 3,000 that
The
was back?
3,000.
comes back to the general fund, but you can certainly earmark it also. You
Okay.
can put an earmark in there. I could tell the treasurer if you want to deposit it in that account.
Okay. So I'm looking for a motion to let Mike Pigtank and his, what is it, COG?
Well, so what we do is Jeff would put out an RFP.
Oh, okay. I got you. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to go ahead and get the ball rolling on phase 6 Memorial Street. So so Jeff can get rolling on getting a proposal out.
Do we want to put in there the amount of money, or does it matter?
Well, this is his
Estimate?
So yeah,
estimate,
that's really only an estimate.
and we have to go out to bid on it first, right? Or do
So
we-
just a motion to move forward.
Right, to do a request for proposal
Okay.
for a phase 6, while funding engineering from Chapter 90 and the general cost of the project from, unreserved funds.
Chris?
Yes.
Yeah, my only question is, before you take your vote, is that if the Memorial Street extension isn't designed and a number put in there for that figure, and they vote on a certain number for engineering, it may not include Memorial Street extension, so kind of caution about that. So you kind of talk to Dan and find out what the numbers are going to be to add that last 300 feet, 400 feet, whatever it is, 300 I think it is.
And I think, based on our experience with Weston and Sampson, we could convince them to take whatever the town is willing to put up. Especially if it's going to be bundled, ideally with Fisher Street. They look at this as a business lead. So I think their original estimate was something like 25,000 to do it. And over a course of several meetings, we've talked it down to 18,000. And with any luck, we could slide in the second part of the memorial. Yeah. If that becomes a major stumbling block, which I doubt it would, but we could revisit that for.
Right now, their estimate is like 97,000 just for water out of that grant. So, and if you're gonna go up another 300-400 feet, that's gonna probably add another 7,000, 6,000. So just gotta make sure that all those numbers work.
Yeah, and then in terms of the design too, I know we've talked about how the water department doesn't have money to put into this. The engineer has spoken with Ron about he would work with him to pencil in the design, and then the engineer would just throw it into AutoCAD free of charge. Because for them, the biggest cost is the survey, which needs to be done for the drainage.
So the motion would mean, the motion you're looking for is?
Just to let Jeff move forward with this.
Yeah, it's fine. Make that motion that we move forward with Phase 6 Memorial Street.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none. Pat?
Yes.
Virginia?
Abstain.
And I will vote yes.
So as part of the application process too, there'll be some community development strategy meeting, public hearing, and that'll give the board additional information on what that second activity will be.
Okay.
Like I said, whether it be senior services or something else.
Okay. Cool. All right, and this is also yours, I think? Next.
Yep. So as we're wrapping up Phase 3 right now, Weston and Sampson, the engineer, sent over a change order for, I believe, $6,800 for additional clerking hours. When we got the bids in for the contractor, everybody was a little nervous. Nobody had really heard of them before. They had some good references from the few towns that had worked with them, so we didn't have a reason to kick them out. But the project team decided early on that we were going to front-end load the clerking hours. And it turns out that they were great from the start, but we burned through a lot of the hours that we had budgeted. So when it came to the end, we needed them to stay on an extra couple weeks. And so it's all going to be funded out of the grant. And like I said before, we're still saving an awful lot of Chapter 90 money, so it's not a big hit to the town.
Okay. And this, you said this is out of the grant, so.
Right.
Okay. So we just need a motion to accept this contract amendment.
For $6,800.
Yep. So, yep.
I move.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none. Virginia?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
And I will vote yes.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
I'll give you a call. I'll be here tomorrow.
Discuss and act on marked drug and alcohol policy. I hope everybody read this. We don't have to waste our time reading it now. It took a while.
Why do you want to read it to everyone?
No. I do not.
If you need a brief, Mr. Chairman, Eileen's here, or I can do it, either one of us
Okay.
can answer questions about why you're being asked. Sure.
Sure.
As you know, the town receives a substantial MARC grant, for which we're very thankful. They have adopted a long-standing policy on drug and alcohol use by their drivers, and the town needs to adopt this policy for the drivers that are in the employ of the Council of Aging driving these vans. It's important to understand that this policy does not apply to town employees driving town vehicles elsewhere. It does not affect or impair any bargaining agreements we have in place or any non-bargain staff. It applies only to the MARC van drivers. Meals on Wheels, MARC vans, what else?
No, it's just the MARC.
Just the MARC, not Meals on Wheels.
Just the MARC, the transportation vehicles only. So there's 3 of those.
Okay. And this has been in effect, it just hasn't been adopted by the town, is that what it is?
Actually, it's a new policy for MARC
Okay.
because they had federal regulations that they had to follow. And doing that, to comply with it, they had to create this policy. They actually called me again today asking for a response one way or the other, whether or not to adopt the policy. I recommend we do, since MARC reimburses us almost $100,000 a year. I think it's, you know, and they pay for all the drug testing that is done and the physicals for the drivers, which is 8 of them.
Now I read something in here that, do we have to appoint a liaison?
I believe there was one that was supposed to have been appointed back in June, and I believe it was Bob Columbus.
I think it's
Oh, okay.
Columbus. Yeah, I think he still is.
I don't know if that's still in effect or
Yeah.
not, but.
Yeah, it's the MARC and
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so
MTA.
it's our marked person that
Right.
that oversees this drug thing as well.
I have never heard from him about anything, so I
Okay.
don't know.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Because I did a letter and I want to make sure I have it right. On number 3 on the cover letter, it says each employee must identify a contact person to be the designated employee representative. Now, that's not the same, it's not the liaison, that would be you, I would think.
Or you.
We're,
Personnel.
number 3.
Okay.
I don't know.
Possibly.
Well, it says the designated employee representative is the person within your organization who is responsible for all communications with the MARC consortium coordinator. So,
It should be Bob.
I would think it's probably Bob.
You have to do these trainings.
You'll need to be trained. Yep.
I moved it.
Huh?
Why would we have the chief of police?
I'm not sure that he would want to be having a...
If anything else outside of Bob or Eileen, it would be the personnel person. So,
I think it's got to be somebody who would have contact and see these drivers, and I don't know, I guess we'll have to check into that. I don't think we need to give them a name tonight, we can check into it.
Okay.
I move that we adopt the drug and alcohol program enforced by MARC for the drivers.
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none. Pat?
Yes.
Virginia?
Yes.
And yes. And we'll try to get more information on who our designee should be.
I did a letter, we'll just hold off on that.
But at least you can let them know that we adopted it. We'll be sending them a letter. We just have to get a name.
Virginia, I think you may be right, it's more like the chief of police or a matron in the police department, someone who would do field testing.
Yeah.
That's the way it seems to read.
Yeah, I would think maybe if Eileen had a concern, she would just call the chief and have him come up and...
They do random
Yeah,
tests.
and they decide that, right, Mark?
Yes, they have a random pool.
They have a pool.
And
Mhm.
they call me when a person is picked, and I can't tell them who it, when they're picked.
Right.
And then I have to call them in, and then they go and get tested.
Like the family does. There's a possibility of,
All right, so that is all set. We'll go back to one. And we'll let Julie get set up first. Do you know if Mr. Ledger was coming in for his...
He is not.
He is not?
He's on vacation this week.
Oh. Diana's here.
Oh, no, not speaking to them.
Diana wants to speak.
Mr. Trifolo was supposed to come.
Okay.
Okay.
We're a little early on to him, so...
Sweetheart deal, all right. What's that over there, sweetheart deal and Perry combining the two departments? That's a sweetheart deal, all right. The guy don't even take care of what he's got in town here. He comes in more, doing all his work on our town. Just know the facts, get down and watch and see.
Once you're settled, Julie,
Oh yeah. He's the sneakiest guy that's been in town.
Peter, relax. We couldn't do the first set of minutes because Pat and I were at that meeting.
Okay. I think what you can do is accept him the bill and be available.
Well, we had to wait for you to get here.
Okay.
Because it was 1 against 2.
that's the only one we didn't get.
And you only need one of those. Here we have extras. But we're not at that yet, so we'll wait and see if Mr. Trifolo shows up this week. So we'll go back and do that first set of minutes if we could, the July 18th.
So I will make a motion to approve the minutes from July 18th, 2012.
Second?
Okay, any other discussion, omissions, any errors that you saw?
I didn't see anything.
I wasn't there, so.
I didn't see it.
Okay. So Pat? Julie?
Yes.
Virginia?
Yes.
So we're good there. So, if it's believed that Mr. Trifolo will be here, we should probably hold off on that. Like I say, we're early, he's not up till 7:15. We can go to the next item, which is payoff of short-term loans coming due, including 252. Now, what is this?
I don't know, I don't have it.
You don't have this?
It's circled with the line.
Got a 9 on the
That's
top
what
corner.
I'll show you. I think what we need to do at this point, in order to refinance the borrowing, is that we have to direct the treasurer to contact and find out what our options are, what the terms are. And I think we need to probably make a decision very soon, if not tonight, how we're gonna, oh, you got it, okay. whether we're just going to pay back the part that we borrowed. We are authorized to borrow, I believe, 1.7 or 9 million under the levy limit. I believe close to 700,000 has been expended on 252. So we have to figure out, are we going to pay back the whole thing, pay back the 1 million, and then figure out how to pay back the 700,000.
Personally, I would get the 1 million back to them because, you know, if that project's dead, we don't need it.
Right.
And just pay, you know, the 1.2 or whatever it is, and then pay off figure out a way to do the 700,000.
We should probably try to start paying on the principal for that 700,000.
I don't know if that's an option. I think we have to pay, by November 1st, we have to figure out what we're doing. We can't just pay the principal. We have to figure out, are we rolling it, how long are we rolling it out for? Is it a state treasury bond, or is it, are we going out in the open market for it, do we need bond counsel? There are pros and cons to either way. And there are costs involved.
What you have is a $1.9 million bond anticipation loan. It's due. So you must decide what to do. You can finance the whole 1.7, or finance, or 1.9, sorry, or just the 700,000 that we've expended, and return the 1.2.
Right.
If you do that, you have to decide on your path forward for the 700. You need to do that by November 1st at the latest. You can, as Julie just said, go through the State House, or the State House notes issued by the treasurer. They're quick, they're very cheap because you don't have to go to a bond council. They're guaranteed by the Commonwealth, and you get rock bottom prices. That would be one way forward on the 700,000. Another way would be kind of what's laid out on the sheet, which is go out, put it out to bid, hire bond counsel, let people bid on that $700,000 bond. Of course, the cost of that is many thousands of dollars. You might get a lower rate because the State House notes are short-term notes. Or, you know, in the final analysis, go over and take 700,000, spread it out over a very long period of time.
We don't have the active treasurer.
No. But with some guidance tonight as to what the way you'd like to go, and she will be in tomorrow, we could, you know, have her go to work and then produce some numbers for you perhaps for the next meeting for Monday night.
That probably would be a good idea.
Yeah. Are there any other short-term notes that we have to deal with?
This is the only one we
This is
took
the
care
only
of the
one?
senior center. That's
Okay.
done. That was the one you're probably thinking of, but that's done.
Well, there's also the feasibility study one for the school, but I think that's out until the 13th,
Yeah,
2013.
that's not due
Yeah.
until next year.
So I think this is the only one due November 1st, so we really do have to figure out what our options are and how we want to proceed.
Okay.
But we're probably going to need more data at this point.
I would think that Tammy could probably give us
I would like to,
information.
I think the best thing to do is to give back the 1.2 and just try to finance the 700,000. That would be my,
That's what I would think, too.
Yeah, we're going to have to figure out how to do that because that has to be under the levy limit. So that's money that has to come up out of the tax rate that's already been set.
so yeah, if they can work on that and have
Is
it
that
for us Monday.
We need a motion.
Well, a motion or
We need a
direction of the
motion to
board.
direct them.
Yeah. Give us a formal direction, we'll be happy to take it.
I'll make a motion to direct the acting treasurer, interim acting?
Yes.
Acting treasurer to explore our financing options for the short-term ban, 252 Baldwin Road.
Second.
Any other discussion? Yes, Mr. Mr.
I'm kind of confused.
Yep.
I think, again, talking about the Mongo thing, how much the town, how much we owe on that now?
700,000.
700,000?
Yeah, that's what was
Now, are we
spent.
borrowing 700,000?
Well, we have a note for the whole 1.9. It's a 1 year, it was a short-term note. It's
Are we
due in
paying interest on
November.
that 2 million?
1.9 million.
Yes.
We're paying
Yes,
interest on that?
yes.
Why are we paying interest on that and we only
That's what we're discussing
But that's
now.
what we're,
That's what we're discussing.
we had to
Get rid
take
of that.
out the whole amount at first. Now we don't need it because we're not going through with that. We're gonna give the 1.2 back and then finance the
How much interest
700,000.
are we paying on that 1.2?
I don't know.
25,000 or so a year or a month or?
I don't have that number.
Yeah, I'm just curious because it seems like I always thought like a home equity loan or something, you paid interest on what you borrow, not what you got.
Mhm.
In this case, it sounds like we got the money, we shouldn't be paying interest on the whole thing. I can see paying interest on the 700,000, not the money we haven't touched.
I can answer your question. Since they gave us the entire 1.9 million,
Yeah, but not-
and we put it in the bank, it's drawing interest.
We took the money.
Yes, we're earning interest on it right now. It's sitting in the bank, earning interest
We
for
hurry
it.
up and give it back.
At this, yes, precisely, that's the discussion. At the same time, we are paying interest to the people we borrowed it from and earning interest because it's in the bank. They do not cancel each other out, but close.
I was gonna say, I don't think it's not an even swap.
No, it's not.
It comes
That's why
close.
action
So how
is-
much are we on the hook for? 700,000 as far as what we gotta pay?
Plus interest and
Plus interest.
yeah, borrowing
So that'll
costs.
be $1 million of a warehouse.
Yes.
Will we be putting this building up for sale?
We haven't discussed that yet.
Will we be discussing that at the same time now?
Well, the chief was looking at that for a possible new station area, and he hasn't gotten back to us on that yet, so.
There again, where's he gonna get the money?
Seems like an awful lot, $1 million for a warehouse that we don't keep.
I mean, maybe somebody wants to buy it and we can make our money back and then deal with the chief afterwards. I don't
Who
know.
would buy it?
We did.
Yeah.
We bought it.
I'm just curious how you kind of.
I mean, the land must be
The way it was
valuable
going
there.
and.
Yeah, maybe Dennis was.
Okay, so, any other discussion? Sue?
Yeah, the 700,000 that has to be paid off, I know it has to be done under the levy limit. So does that mean, I mean, is there, how many years can that be done?
It depends if we go out to bond through bond council or we go through the State House. I believe the maximum of the State House is what, 4 or 5 years?
5 is the max. 3, 4, or 5.
So we'd be,
Any idea
I
what the
think
interest
we
rates
would-
are at?
no idea. We don't have the figures. That's why we're taking this vote to get some figures for the next,
Because I hope
probably
everybody
next Monday.
understands, under the levy limit means
Right.
it's gonna take
From
from
what we have now. Right, right.
I just wanna make sure I
Yeah, and I-
understand that. I just wanna make sure
Exactly.
everybody
No, I
understands that.
And
do
I-
understand that.
and I
I stood there for a while.
I think when we had that meeting in May, quiet please, when we had that meeting in May, that's part of what Will's thinking was the extra money we were trying to save was to help pay the first year of that loan. So,
And then for the next fiscal year, we can figure out how to budget for it, because we'll have, once we go out and do the borrowing, we'll know what the figure is that we have to come up with.
Yeah, yeah. And I just want to add one more thing. Don't kid yourself, Frank, that people are looking for commercial properties. There is, you're on the planning board, you should know this. You have someone,
I haven't seen nobody come see us yet.
yeah, there is somebody coming again, because there's been quite a bit of interest in another commercial property, which is really, for the company that's going forward, looking at that one, much better, 252, because it's right off of Route 2. I mean, you know, there are people out there looking.
Right. You know,
And they're looking to come where they can save money now in this kind of economy with buying where it's cheaper. Labor is cheaper, obviously, you know, labor out here is cheaper than east of 495, that kind of thing.
right. You know, I doubt if we'll ever come back, I'm sorry, Chris. I doubt if we'll ever make back the 700,000.
Oh, well, never will.
No.
But,
And the
I mean,
3.3
cut our
cost.
losses.
Right, cutting the losses, that's what's important. Using that money to pay back the loan.
okay, Bev?
Why was it under the levy limit? Was that so people couldn't vote for it or against it at town meeting?
No, that's how when we settle on paying it, it has to be under the levy, which means it has to be in our tax rate for this year.
But that's how, is that because of the way that it was bought?
No.
No?
It was because of the way it was voted at town meeting.
Oh, okay, that's what I meant, yeah.
The wording of that article said it had to be under the levy limit, so then it didn't have to go to ballot.
Okay.
So that vote at town meeting
So people didn't have a chance to say yes or no?
at the ballot, right.
Frank?
Yeah, I think it's like a dead horse because we couldn't use it because 400,000 fixed a roof. I mean, how are you gonna sell it to somebody? They still gotta fix the roof. I mean, it's not really a prime piece of property.
Why would you always pay somebody to tear it down?
I think the
That's what
average
they
person
do.
could
Oh,
do,
yeah, exactly.
an average
Down,
private
down.
company could do cheaper than the town could under prevailing wage.
We bought it.
Excuse me, I didn't.
All right, so the motion has been made and I believe seconded
Yes.
to ask our acting treasurer or interim treasurer to look at some finance options, and so we can have them for next Monday's meeting.
Crematory.
Before the interviews are out.
Yeah. All right, any other discussion? No other discussion? Pat?
Yes.
Virginia?
Yes.
And Julie?
Yes.
So it's 3 yeses. I still don't see Mr. Tripolo here. We can give him a couple more minutes. Actually, it is 7:15. Why don't we go back to this?
All right, so going back to
We'll go back to the
Board of Health.
Board of Health thing. It is 7:15, and if he's not here, he's not here. I really wish somebody was here, because I have questions I'd like to have answered, but, did you want to read the letter, or did you?
Yeah, I think, so people can understand what.
Did I get tape to start?
Jeff, why don't you tell them what we received from Mr. Trevlo and company?
We have received a draft memorandum of understanding. Intermunicipal agreement is another term for it. Draft proposed for the board's consideration to regionalize our health service operation to include the town of Berry with Templeton, and have our health agent serve both towns in return for a, I believe it was $15,000 per year payment from Berry to Templeton.
$1,500 a month, I think.
Yeah.
$1,500 a month.
A month,
It's
yeah.
$18,000.
Waste
$18,000.
management. Know the facts.
And the agent would attend meetings, the agent would do restaurant inspections and perk tests in the town of Berry. Doesn't specify hours or days of week, just that he'd be responsible for doing it along with his regular duties. The town would benefit to the tune of $18,000 for him to do this.
I find some of the provisions of that very loose.
Say to do that, inspections in a week,
Can I do this first?
1 hour
Yep.
a day.
Hold on. Virginia actually wrote a letter to us, seeing that this was on the thing tonight. She wants to...
As you are all aware, we have been looking for ways to cut our operating costs without having significant negative effect on our services that we provide to the community. On September 10th, I attended a regionalization conference that was provided by the Mass Municipal Association, which was very enlightening. Upon my return to town, I began researching to determine where we could take advantage of a large cost savings by regionalizing one or more of our departments/positions. Since that time, I have accumulated a great deal of information, and I'm still waiting for more to come. I would have presented all of this to the Board of Selectmen for their consideration once I had this information available. Since that time, however, we have been presented with a proposed plan from the health agent with regard to a similar idea. My request is that we table his proposal until which time we have explored regionalizing our health agent position for the coming year. Before I presented this to the board, I would have liked to discuss it with the health agent, but since his plan has been presented, this has jumped forward sooner than I would have presented it. It is my belief that if we are diligent with our research and preparation, that we can save the town a lot more money than by just jumping on this memorandum of understanding submitted by Mr. Ledger. I am confident that we can find an already regionalized group that would be willing to take us on. Also, I believe that if we find one or more communities in a group that are larger than ours, that we may be able to relieve ourselves of the liability of the benefits, insurances, and other costs, as we did with the animal control officer. This process of regionalization is going to be our saving grace for the future. I would therefore ask you to consider not accepting this agreement with Mr. Ledger and waiting for more information about regionalizing this position for the coming year.
Piece of work.
Yeah.
Don't man, it's all he is.
Almost this, I think it was last Thursday? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking in the Worcester Telegram, and they actually had an article about the Barry Board of Health and their landfill.
Yeah.
And I found it interesting that, you know, they want to increase the tonnage. Waste Management wants to increase the tonnage. They've reduced the hours of their monitor. And, right, so I thought that was interesting, and then when I looked at the memorandum of agreement, it doesn't have anything about monitoring the landfill or overseeing the landfill. And the laws have changed in Massachusetts. It used to be the DEP that did the site assignments for landfills, and now it's the boards of health. So I can't imagine, I don't know how this per diem was calculated. We don't know how many hours, how many days, how it will be split, but I think that needs a lot more clarification. And I too agree with Virginia that we need to look at other ways and possibly regionalizing with larger towns, not just for Board of Health.
Chris?
Yes.
We have regionalized with Gardner, the dog officer, and I think that's working well. It doesn't make a lot of sense to go have one regionalization there and then go to Barry, and the landfill there causes concern to me too. And if maybe there were other towns that needed the same thing, we could do like Neshoba does, in Ashburnham. They have a regionalized Board of Health. So I think it's a good thing not to jump off the cliff without the parachute. Done that many times in this town.
Now, and I'm wondering too, the way this is written, it doesn't say that that $1,500 a month is coming to the town. It just says it's being paid. It could be going to him.
Yes.
You know? So that would be another concern that I would have.
Right.
And again, with nobody from the Board of Health here to give us our answers, I can't see us going ahead with this either way, even without Virginia's suggestion.
I think we should just take it under advisement.
Yeah.
It is in fact just a draft document. It's not final for
right, but like, you know, there's nobody here to give answers. Either somebody, one of the board members, or Mr. Ledger, or. So yeah, I would say we should just, at this time, not take any action on it. See where it goes.
Now, do we want to have a committee? I mean, I'm compiling all this information now, and I'm glad to keep on working on it, but if other people want to be a part of that, that's...
A regionalization committee?
Yep.
Well, we have a government study committee, right?
We've not re-upped it yet. I've asked
All right, because I mean,
several times
that to me would fall under studying your government if you're going to regionalize.
Yeah.
You know?
That probably would be the place for it.
So, like, instead of making more committees, that you get people, part-time, get people to sign up for it? Oh, I'm just saying.
Yeah. All right.
Could we do appointments to the government study committee?
That's a good idea.
On Monday?
Sure.
Okay.
Do all kind of stuff, what you said.
If we can let volunteers, Virginia and I'll volunteer, we know that.
A check with the people that were on it last year.
Part of that is my problem,
Okay.
because I was supposed to send that list to.
Next on the list here is lines of credit. There's no
Did you take a vote on any of that stuff?
For the Board of Health thing?
Yeah.
We are going to just, as Julie said, take it under advisement. We're not going to make any action on it tonight. Too many unanswered questions. But
Perhaps that's on here tonight because of me. At the Highway Department, we're always looking for different vendors and sources to buy something a little cheaper, with less money. Trying to work on saving the budget and the tax dollar. Some vendors that we talk to don't have a problem just billing us because we're a town. Some companies have company policies and they want to go through the credit app even though we are a town. So for example, 3 of our dump trucks, bing, 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 each one of them in a row within 2 weeks apart, rotted out fuel tanks. So we used every resource we could to find a used fuel tank for the old Max. None around, just none. We checked everywhere. Got on the internet even, trying to find a place that we could even get something new or used. Ran into that problem. No credit, no credit line. So we went to a show. We picked up some. Winter gloves. It was a show price, cheaper than what we could buy them from our normal vendor, who we've always done business with. So we took advantage of it, going into the winter months. They required